During today's episode, we will be talking with Dr. Debra D Winans. She's the author of the highly recommended book, Life Altered, Not Over, My Silent Journey to Wholeness. She will take us on a journey of her life after divorce and her process of healing and restoration. So tune in for part one of my conversation with Dr. Winans. Hi, Laura. How are you?
Shelly, I am great, and thanks for having me on today.
All of you naysayers, I love you with love of the Lord, but I have to, it's my desire that it will change lives.
Oh my goodness, how are you?
I am well. How are you? I am so excited to meet you.
Look, listen, I'm excited to have you here. Like I said, I read your book twice. Okay,
Wow.
Reading your book, it's just reminded me of some of the things that I've gone through, and it's kind of parallel. You know, our backgrounds are similar, and so on and so forth. I know there are so many people that are going to be able to benefit from it. You know,
Thank
and
you.
that's amazing.
I appreciate that's my desire. It really, really is my desire that it would change lives and cause people to find their identity,
Yeah,
and their purpose,
right.
and move in it, walk
Yes,
in it.
absolutely,
Walking in the
absolutely.
afraid, walking in it by yourself, just do it. What God put in your heart, because life is not over.
That's right.
Just been altered.
Exactly. And there's a story behind that book,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Oh
And
yeah.
if you could just tell our audience just a little bit about you and your background, you
Okay.
know.
Well, I am number 7 in my family. Well, 5 boys and 2 girls, and one of my brothers and my sister's gone to be with the Lord. But my parents were pastors growing up in Sacramento, California, and a lot. So ministry is what we know. I've known it
Yeah.
all of my life. Um, just many journeys, many journeys. I have 2 beautiful. They're not babies, but they're still my babies.
Of
I don't
course,
care if they're in their 20s. I don't care.
they'll always be your
They're
babies,
my
right?
babies. Yeah. 2 amazing kids. Always worked in corporate America. Um, Became an entrepreneur. I've always loved to write. Actually, journaling was my way of dealing with things. So I would write, never read it, put it away. So I've
Hmm.
always written, love to write. So I'm actually working on my second book now.
Okay.
Yeah, so I do teaching and training. I'm a part of an incredible ministry of Apostle Brian Wilson and Prophetess Tiffany Wilson here in Atlanta. A great church called Freedom International. And so yeah, I'm on a new journey, so I'm excited. I went back to school at in my
Okay.
50 something years old, and got my degree, and I'm gonna work on my master's. And life has just been good. It's been good.
That is amazing. Oh my goodness. God is good because it's something when you get to the point in your life and God just starts doing things with you and doing things in us, because we're always growing, right?
Yes, yes,
Always growing,
yes.
always.
Whether we like it or not.
Right. Oh my gosh.
Mhm.
And I read your book and like I said, I read it twice and it's just was amazing. So what was the inspiration behind your book, Life Altered Not Over, My Silent Journey to Wholeness? Because let me just tell you, that title in and of itself is
Mhm.
just like wow.
Yeah. I was, like I said, I used to write, and I don't normally go back and read what I wrote. But
Right.
I was in such a bad place. My marriage was a mess, and we were in a. I believe it was. We were going through a legal separation at the time, and so one day, I decided I was doing something. I went back and I found my journals, and I started reading them, and I just was weeping because I thought I'm still at this place. These journals were years old, but being able to identify with some of the things I had written. And so I got up one day, just out of the blue. I said, let me just put this on in the computer. And I started writing, and I started writing, and I started writing, and then the chapter titles would come to me, and I just started this writing, yet at the same time walking through my process. Where I got the subtitle, My Silent Journey to Wholeness, I went to a conference and I was needing God to give me a word so desperately. And there was a lady up speaking, and she was preaching out of her pain. It was very clear. And I thought to myself, well, she's just as jacked up as I am. What's happening here? And I did not want to be that. I came off the road. I was speaking and doing ministry and doing conferences and working with companies and training. And I just decided I was coming off the road. And my priority was for my children and I to be healed.
Right.
And so I took that time, and I was not going to stand before anybody else until God began to heal me. So
That's
it was
amazing.
Quiet. I couldn't tell anybody what was happening. My lessons came at great cost, and it was something that I needed to do. And that's where I found so many treasures and learned things about God that I never knew before. Knowing him all my life, I learned and saw his hand that just blew me away.
Wow. Well, it's something during those times when you talked about that silent time, that's that time that you get a chance to just sit in his presence. And especially with writing, because I kind of did the same thing in the midst of my pain, when I lost my baby girl, and I couldn't sleep at night. So like it just started writing.
Yeah.
It started right. And then, God he just reveals so much during those times. He reveals so much. And it's amazing because we find out so much about ourselves, like you were saying, you went back and was looking through old journals, because I've done that too. And it's just like, wow. And you can either say, wow, I'm still at the same place, or wow, look where God has brought me from,
Right. And the pain in the journal, it was full of pain and with no answers. You understand? I had a lot of questions. Why? How come? I mean, what's going on? What did I miss? I had so many questions. That's why you see me ask questions all throughout my book.
Yes.
To make people think, because I started writing what some people were thinking and would not say.
Absolutely.
Just in my conversation, and have dealt with men and women in this area. And so when I started writing, I remember thinking, my life is over. What in the world am I going to do? I remember saying to God, what are you going to do with me now?
Right.
There's absolutely nothing you can do with me right now. I'm telling God this, right? Go figure. And I heard the title in my ears so clear. It was like, your life is not over. I've made some alterations. That's what I heard. It grabbed me, because life happens to all of us.
Absolutely.
And sometimes when it is challenging, you don't see your way out. You just, things get so cloudy and so distorted, and our humanity kicks in 100%.
Yeah.
And you got to figure this thing out. And in the church, unfortunately, I didn't find a lot of answers.
Right.
I had to go on my personal journey.
Yeah. Because it's those times where God's like, okay, I want you to see me. This is, and I'm thinking about when I've been in tough situations, and sometimes, like you said, you can't see beyond what's around you. Right. And I was just talking about this because, that's when those are the times where God just wants us to look to him, and nobody else, because once he does it, we can't give anybody else the glory.
And that's the whole point, that he wants to bring us through, so that he doesn't share his glory with anyone.
That's right.
And when we walk through it, people, you can't convince somebody that Jesus is really real unless he's been really real to you.
Right.
And you have proof.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have miracle after miracle, revelation after revelation, and healing after healing. This thing is real.
Yeah.
So when you tell your story and people think, okay, number one, I'm not alone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if she can go through that and you don't look like what you've gone through, you know,
That's
people
right.
are apt to more listen when you're more real and you're
Right.
honest and you're
Right.
transparent.
Yes. Transparent.
People need that. They don't.
Yeah.
We don't need Clark, I mean, Superman. We need Clark. We need to.
That's right.
People need to see the person who struggled and failed and struggled and failed and got up again and failed and got up again. That's what people need to see. And they need to see the victory, and they need to see you going on that path to wholeness
Yeah.
intentionally.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, it doesn't happen overnight.
No,
It's a
ma'am.
process, because sometimes they say, just trust God and everything's going to be all right.
You lie, you lie, you lie, you lie. I'm sorry. I'm on your podcast. I am so sorry.
You are fine. But no, it's true. Because think about it. It's just like, and you hear this and you're like, okay, so I got to hurry up and get myself together. Okay, I got to hurry up and mm-mm.
Mm-mm.
It's a process.
It's
And we got to allow God to just take us through that process because we're learning, through each stage of that journey. He's teaching us something.
and I learned things about the Lord. I knew God. I was no stranger to the presence of God or
Right.
God's voice, but I didn't know him this way.
Mm.
If I can say it that way. And I'll tell you what happened. A friend of mine called me and she said, Deborah, I want you to go to California with me. Just get away for a couple of days.
Mm-hmm.
So someone was there with my children. And I she was away at a meeting and I was in the hotel. And I'm this kind of person, what you see is what you get. And I ask a lot of questions. So I said, well, okay, I'm by myself. So I thought, I'm going to try this. I took my word, and you've heard people say, I opened the word, and I mean, that scripture jumped right out at me.
Right.
So I was like, I'm going to try that. So I opened my Bible, and I was skimming through, and nothing in particular jumped out. So I took and I threw it up in the air, and it landed on the bed, and I flipped it over. I know it's real dramatic, right? And I'm waiting for this. And I said, this is stupid. And I just closed the Bible.
Right.
And I said, this is exactly what I said. I said, Lord, we need to have a conversation.
Mm.
I said, I have some questions. I asked him 3 questions. I asked him, what difference does it make who files for the divorce if the covenant is already broken? Number 2, why do I beg you why do I beg you to make this man love me? And number 3, what does it say about me that I'm asking you to change his heart when he clearly wills not? And I sat back in the bed and I waited.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't tell you how long I waited. But I was not moving until he spoke to me. And then he said, now I can take you on the journey.
Wow.
You're ready now.
Mm.
And I was like, wow, okay. Because it was said to me, the one who files, the curse is upon them. I mean, these are people in the church telling me this. And, you got to obey God. And you got all of these lists of things that I needed to do as a wife. It felt like the whole responsibility of the weight of my marriage was on me because I knew the Lord. I was in ministry. I was in leadership. That is such baloney.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was having to sort all that stuff out in my head and flush a lot of voices out. That's where that chapter, Too Many Voices.
Mm.
because I was hearing it from every direction. And then the word came that God's going to turn this marriage around and it's going to be a testimony and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I was holding on to it. So I was real confused when it didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then having to adjust to, there are people that I walked with their marriages and they're good. And they're good to this day. What happened? I tried the formulas. I did this. I did what I was told. What happened? So that journey was so intense.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, at the end of the day, it really wasn't about my former. It was all about me.
Mm-hmm.
And who I was and who he called me to be and what he called me to do. He was reminding me of where I came from. He didn't ignore my request. It's just that it wasn't important. He needed to work in me so that I can do what I needed to do, so I can write the book, so lives will be blessed. And it just like, wow. So I have a folder that I have all these words that the Lord has given me. And for the first time, Shelley, I looked and I was reading it and I said, oh my God, he never said, I'm restoring your marriage. He said, I'm restoring you.
Wow. Mm.
So when you're desperate and you want to hear specific things, doesn't mean God said it. It's what you wanted. It's what you want. It's how and I learned how you can try to manipulate the word of the Lord, and that you cannot. And he'll bring you to that place where you're like, that's not what I said. I said this. So he walking in truth was one of the biggest processes that I learned. Walking in his truth. And you don't always, it doesn't always come across easy, and it's raw.
Right.
It's very raw, and you have to decide if you want to deal with it or not.
Right. And that's the awesome part about that personal relationship. I was taught that a long time ago. It's not about religion or all of that. It's about that personal one-on-one relationship, because when God speaks directly to us, that's the amazing part. And when we're in the midst of the situation, like you said, you want things to turn out a certain way. You want things to be better but it's just like, okay, once we sit still and yield over our will and say, okay, God, because we can still struggle, right?
Yes, absolutely.
We can still struggle with it, which
Absolutely.
means we can't really hear
Right.
what he's trying to say, because we're still stuck on what we want. And a lot of us go through that,
Yeah.
When you have that,
real.
It's real.
It's very real. It's a part of our humanity. God didn't make us robots.
Right.
We're 3-part beings: spirit, soul, and body. The soul is where your mind, will, and emotions are housed. They live there. So we're not just dealing with the spirit. That's why when people would come to me and want to be deep and spooky and give me something, I'm like, go away. That was just where I was. I can't. I just go away, because that's not working for me. I needed to know, how do I forgive this? How do I not be bitter? What do I do with these grudges in my heart?
Right. Yeah.
How do I deal with that? What do I tell my children? How do we do this thing? What am I supposed to do with all these emotions that I'm feeling? The anger, the rage, the unforgiveness, the bitterness. How do I deal with it? That's the stuff that God is after.
Yeah, the real
stuff. Your little nasty attitude, your little smart mouth, you roll it. Well, look, he's after all of that.
Yeah, all of it.
So that right there, little girl, that.
That's what I'm coming for.
I'm
That
coming,
right there.
I'm coming with a vengeance. I'm coming for it.
Because some of that stuff we try to hold close,
Woo!
and give the excuse that, well, that's just me.
Hmm.
That's my personality. You just, no,
He's not
mm-mm,
having it.
no,
He's
absolutely
not
not.
having it.
Because when you talk about holy living, you
Hmm.
know,
Exactly.
and sitting here and thinking and listening to you and reflecting, on my own life. And I'm just like, wow, I can remember being in those places where I needed that quiet time,
Hmm.
where I needed to hear from God because I had so many questions.
Hmm.
Like, I don't understand this. And because, especially when we're hit with traumatic situations
Yes, ma'am.
and the anger comes
Hmm.
and the unforgiveness comes, and,
Hmm.
and, and, and it's just these emotions, like you said, because we are human,
Hmm.
but there's something about getting in his presence and just listening for whatever it is he's trying to tell us, whatever it is he's trying to teach us.
Right.
And sometimes it doesn't happen overnight. It might take a while, um,
Absolutely.
especially when it comes to pain.
Hmm.
Okay. And I can remember when my daughter passed, it was years, right?
Hmm.
And there was a part of me in the beginning, like, if I let go of this pain, that means I'm letting go of her, you know? And it's just like, mm-mm. I know that God has more for me beyond this pain.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And so when we trust Him enough to go beyond the pain, and see, we can't do it ourselves, right? I mean, it's
Exactly.
like, God, you have to do it, because if you don't do it, I don't even know what to do, how to do this. I have no idea. And so that's when we go into the mode where we're fully trusting Him,
Yeah, exactly. And
right?
that's the key. If you can, we can trust God for a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
We can trust Him for other people. But what He's after is us trusting Him with our heart.
That's it.
That is easier said than done, because that's one of the things that He showed me was that, oh, you trust, not that you don't trust me. You will walk through fire for others. That's how I built you, that's how I made you. But you say in your heart, God, will you reject me too? Will you abandon me too? Will you really be there when I need you?
Mm.
And when he brought that to my attention, I wept like a baby. And it wasn't that there was no warning that he was going to show this to me. I was just doing nothing. I was in the kitchen cooking or something. And he hit me with this so hard. And I thought, it's so true. When he speaks, your spirit man
Oh yeah.
knows the truth. And I could not hide from it.
Mm.
I could not. And so I had to go back and it's like, trust you with my heart. Ah! It's like yanking that band-aid off a open
Mm.
gashing wound, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell people all the time, I said, going through this process felt like having open heart surgery with no anesthesia. I felt everything. I felt it all. Different phases, different levels. I went through it. Everything you can imagine, my heart. I didn't know I could hurt so much all at one time.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, he was with me and he allowed me to go through it. He could have delivered me anytime he wanted to.
Right. Yeah.
Because I need you to walk through this. You need to walk through this. I'm with you, but you have to walk through this.
That's right. Can't come out too soon,
Can't come soon.
because when he's doing something with us, and he's making us.
Hmm.
Because let me just tell you, some of those hard trials, and I remember saying to myself, why do I have to go through this? And this was in my, image. And, I hear my mom in my ears, she would say, well, why not
Why
me?
not me? I know, right?
But I'm like, well, okay.
I know.
But
I
no,
know.
it's just like when you're going through it and you just like, wow, this is a hard one. Like, God, this is hard. but he's so amazing, you know,
He
and he's
is,
so
and
awesome.
it is trusting him when you can't trace him.
Mm.
It's
Hmm.
um, trusting him when you can't see your way clear. You can't, when it's so dark and it's so cloudy and it's so heavy, and we know that you won't be there in that place always, but it
Yeah.
sure feels like always,
Yeah.
you know. But it's trusting him, um, that truly that still small voice that knows you, that knows everything about you.
Yeah.
And he truly knows how much you can bear.
Yeah. Yeah. And he shows us, you know, I put something in you, you know,
Mhm.
because we think, okay, we can't, I can't take that. I can't. But when you're going through it, God just lets us know, hey, you know, I'll never leave you nor forsake. And sometimes we don't feel him. It's like, you know, because we're so focused on what we're going through. And we're just like, well, where are you? Did you
Right.
leave me out here by myself? You know, in that deep part of the valley, you know, and it's just like, okay. And that's where you have to really rely on your faith, you know, and say, okay, because I can remember when I went through this, and this,
Hmm.
and he delivered me then.
Hmm.
He showed me a miracle here.
Hmm.
He showed me this there. So why would he not show up for me now? It might be taking a little bit longer
Hmm.
than what we expect,
Hmm.
but he's going to show up,
And
right?
he's stretching us. And I believe that the goal of the Lord is to have a mature church,
Mm,
that we mature in him, that we're not drinking the milk, we're ready to eat meat, and that
right.
he can trust us. He's teaching us to be trustworthy, that he can
Mm,
trust us
you can
with
trust us.
trouble. And I used to think, she didn't go through nothing. You know, when you hear people say what they gone through, and you're like, you have got to be kidding
Yeah.
me.
You're like, really? Okay.
Really? I'll take that any day over what I went through, you know. But he can trust us with trouble. He can
Yeah.
trust us with the pain. Um,
Yeah.
and we have to walk through the process. It's the only
Yeah.
way to be healed. And everyone's process is different.
Exactly. You said something right there.
Everybody, but you're going to go through it.
Oh,
But
yeah.
everybody goes through it differently
Yeah.
because he knows our makeup. He knows us. He knows how. And sometimes people like me who are very hard headed, because I told the Lord, I said, Lord, you know I'm your administrator. You know that you need to talk to me about these things. You know you need to explain things to me. You know this about me. And he's like,
Right.
and you get dead silence. It's quiet. He doesn't say anything. Oh,
Ooh. Those
help
times
me,
right there.
Jesus.
Those times when we,
But I'm there. It's like,
ooh.
you got to trust me. And will
Mhm.
you be still long enough to wait for me?
That's it.
Will
And
you
not run ahead of him, right?
not run ahead of me?
Yeah.
Wait for me.
Wait on him. That's it. That's it. And you, when I was reading your book, and you had quite a few quotes that I'm going to ask you about, okay?
Okay.
But there was a quote, and I want to know the meaning behind it. And this one
Okay.
says, purposely provoking confidence in your identity through truth and wisdom.
Yes. That's what I do. I purposely provoke you
Mm,
because I think when you have someone who understands that this thing is so much bigger than you,
hmm
and if you can get your identity, but more importantly, if you can walk in the truth, you will learn who you are. You will receive the wisdom of God. You will walk in your purpose and destiny, but you have to deal with truth.
Yeah.
You have to. I can't provoke you if you're not going to be honest. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
hmm
And say, I'm not there. I need to get there, but this is where I am. Okay, we can work with that.
Yeah.
But it's to provoke you, and it really is provoking you to the presence of God, provoke you to run to the feet of Jesus, provoke you to run into his arms and say, I am a big, fat, hot mess. I need you right now.
Right.
I'm not moving until you come in this room right now.
Right.
So when you provoke to him, then he gives you his wisdom, then you can walk in your identity and you can fulfill your purpose.